Hey guys, this is Stuart. I hope everybody's doing well. Talking first about the quote from Ron Edmonds: "We can, whenever and wherever we choose, successfully teach all children whose schooling is of interest to us. We already know more than we need to do that. Whether or not we do it must finally depend on how we feel about the fact that we haven't so far." Um, for me, breaking down that quote, I mean, there's a lot of things that resonate with me as far as unequal access to education through history, how we have treated certain subpops and certain student groups, students with special needs, students with dyslexia, different socioeconomic and racial groups. Historically, we haven't done a great job of treating everybody equally. And I don't know that we are doing the best job now. And I think recognizing that and recognizing that we have the ability to teach all kids, we need to start doing it. I think is really evident. The problem I think is everybody gets to the point of talking about it, and not enough action happens as far as taking steps to make sure all kids are provided the best opportunity to learn. Um, the single biggest obstacle to successfully teach all children. This was a bit of a hard one for me because there's a couple of things I thought about initially, but overall, I feel like to me it's teaching the reluctant learner. The student that comes to school, they're compliant, but they have no desire to interact with the learning process. And we talk a lot about engaging students and making sure they have all the tools necessary. And are we delivering things that are relevant to them and that are meaningful for them and that create real world applications? And that's all fine. And I think there are certain students that you could put in the best teacher's class with the best information, with the best lesson design and support and technology, and they're still going to be reluctant. And I think that some of those hurdles obviously were probably put in place early on in their childhood. There might be other learning hurdles and things like that. But for me, that's the biggest hurdle because oftentimes I'll feel defeated if I create a lesson that I think is great and I still can't get the students to really engage in it and take part in learning. The analogy that I read was if you have a chef make a five-star meal with everything and it's exactly what the person wants to eat, it's brought out to them and put in front of them and they still don't eat it. What do you do if you're the chef? And I think that to me is always the biggest hurdle. So the next question on this was, where's a time where I was inspired to go beyond the stating learning objective, a moment where you're caught up by the magic and joy of learning? So I'm going to take this from a little bit different point of view. As a teacher, and I still consider myself a learner, I'm sure all of you do as well. So I was teaching anatomy and physiology, and it was, I think, my fourth year of teaching the course, and we were having a discussion in about the circulatory system and different things, and we were talking about artificial heart devices, and one of the students kind of brought up a point and said, well, why aren't they lasting longer? What is why haven't we come up with a better design for an artificial heart? And, you know, is our heart the best way? Is it the best biological design for its purpose? And we kind of got to talking. I said, you know what? Why don't we explore that? So come tomorrow and we're going to start a project. And I stopped us where we were at that point in the curriculum. And we started a project where basically they were to explore our heart and design an artificial heart that would replace it with certain stipulations like longevity, biocompatibility of materials, things like that, and essentially start understanding the purpose of the circulatory system as a means of moving things, not just a heart and veins and just the structures behind it, but what the function, what the purpose is. And one of the things that we discovered when we were all doing the research, including myself, is the idea that we don't need a pulse and that you can continuously move blood through the body like a garden hose, and the body works just fine without having intermittent pulse and everything. It was just a very interesting experience, and I kept that project years after that, but it was really the conversation with the students that inspired us to kind of stop where we were. I'll also say this: it's not a testable subject. It was a senior level elective that kids chose to be in because they were interested. So that in itself lent itself to um, the ability to kind of pivot and turn and follow some interest of all the students. I had a couple of students that actually changed their major to biomedical engineering after that project because they were kind of so interested in the process and how to involve engineering with their love for biology and anatomy. So how that kind of ties back to chapter 4 and 5, I think the first one with chapter 4 is that application piece. And again, when you start to get into anatomy that I was teaching, application is everything for that. And I told my students, even if you end up one day being a business major and an accountant, you're still going to interact with a doctor. You're still going to have friends and family or yourself get sick, or have injuries and things. And you need to understand how the body's working, and be able to use that knowledge. But again, applying it and actually using what they knew about the circulatory system, what they knew about the needs of the circulatory system in the body, and applying it in a way that they were designing something that they thought would be better than the current model. It was really interesting to see how they actually at the end of that project, they understood what the purpose was and how it could be maybe improved on and things like that. I also thought about Chapter 5 of Understanding Design, about topical questions being explicitly matched with the related overarching questions. And again, this was a while ago, before I was taught a little bit about the Understanding by Design process, and we weren't really using essential questions the way that they should be, but I thought a little bit about that. And I think if I were to go back now and teach that subject again, one of the things I would probably do is, for the unit on the circulatory system, the question wouldn't be what is a function of the circulatory system. I think it would be why is the circulatory system designed the way it is? And from that, we could explore a lot of different things, and understanding the purpose of it and the function of it, not just, hey, you have veins, hey, you have arteries. And then I think from there, the topical question becomes, for that project in particular, for that day in particular, is this the most efficient way for our circulatory system to work? We also explored other organisms that don't have four-chambered hearts and things like that, and compared and contrasted which ones are better. But I think for me, had I been a bit more versed in Understanding by Design, I think more of my units, I could have incorporated more of the overarching and topical questions into the unit, and it would have guided us to a deeper understanding. And I think that's what this is all about. It's not just, hey, you have valves, you have these chambers of your heart, the blood flows this way. That's cool. You can find that online. I think understanding the purpose, the function, why it works the way it is, what happens when your blood pressure is too high, what happens when it's too low, I think that's what's really practical for the kids. And I think when you get to that level of understanding, it actually makes the learning process much more enjoyable for them, as well as it makes it much more enjoyable to teach, because you have deeper conversations. I hope everybody's having a great week. I look forward to seeing everybody else's response. I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks. Bye.